Our final talker for the day is going to be Amy Dallen. She's been the host of some of our shows, and she's going to tell us how to read comics.
All right, it's not quite as simple as how to read comics, but it is. It's how to read comics and why you want to. A little about myself. My name is Amy Dallen. Hello. I spend a lot of time talking comics. I work at a comic book store in Burbank, California, in the US. And when I'm not doing that, I am usually making videos or talking about comics on the internet for outfits like Geek and Sundry. So this is something I do a lot, and something that's really interesting to me, especially coming around the world to a gathering of other nerds, is that geek culture is a worldwide thing. But while geek culture is worldwide, and comic book characters and stories are loved all over the place, not that many people are actually reading comics, and this is true at home as well. But I wanted to, part of my dream is to help bridge that gap. So if you're done looking at this beautiful picture, which A, is your first argument of why you want to read comics, because look at that gorgeousness. In case you're intimidated by comics, you might want to realize that you may already be a comics fan. If you grew up on Donald Duck, or Asterix, or Tintin, you are already a comics reader. If you have a set of browser bookmarks for Penny Arcade, or The Oatmeal, or Hark a Vagrant, or any number of webcomics, you already read comics every day. A lot of these are available in bound volumes, but increasingly, stuff you're already aware of. If you've seen Avengers, if you've been watching Arrow or Flash, and I know you've been watching Arrow because I've actually seen at least half a dozen people streaming Arrow just since I've been at the gathering, you are probably aware that those characters come from comics. And not only are there tons of amazing things from their history to read, but there's new stuff being done all the time. And there's even specially designed ones for fans of the adaptation, like Arrow, which has a TV tie-in comic. And of course, if you're watching Attack on Titan or Naruto or even Akira, you are aware that those came from comics. That's where the people who came up with the stories did them first. And there's even potentially some surprises. I am continually surprised how many people don't realize that shows like The Walking Dead, which is a zombie horror show, is based on a long-running comic book series. Or if you are a gamer, and I think we have a couple of those here, you might be familiar with the Telltale Games series, Fables: The Wolf Among Us, which is based on a long-running Vertigo comic series. And that one's actually come full circle. There's a lot of Vertigo comics, they made the game, and now they're making new comics based on the game version. So it's all one big mushy universe. Speaking of which, these ones go the other way. Things don't just come from comics. Companies are increasingly making really high quality tie-ins to beloved game universes like Mass Effect and The Last of Us. And a lot of the times they get the actual creators and people who work on the game to make the comics. So they're a lot better than tie-in comics used to be, and it's a really good time for that stuff. But of course, the best reason to read comics is for the stuff you can only get in comics. And these are really great original stories, like the post-apocalyptic adventure story, Why the Last Man, or the hilarious sci-fi dystopia of Transmetropolitan. And I said, these are things you can only get in comics, but that's just for now. Because you watch out, you turn around, and these things will be at your local multiplex. We've got Daredevil coming to Netflix next week. We've got Preacher coming to AMC, which gave us Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. All kinds of good stuff is coming, and if you are reading comics, then a lot of times you know why you should be excited, because you got to read those stories as their original creators told them, which is really cool. Oh, V for Vendetta, if any of you have seen that. I've seen a lot of V-masks out here. It's a graphic novel from the late 80s. All right, so I've hooked you, obviously, and you're all desperate to get some comics, but the major problem with international markets has not usually been just that you don't know comics exist, but that they're really hard to get. This, I'm happy to say, has changed a lot. The rise of digital comics has really opened this up. So these are some of the places you can go to find your comic books. Comixology has a European branch, which has a lot of the same content as the one we have in America. They're in English and French and other languages. It's got Walking Dead and Mass Effect and a lot of the others I mentioned. If you're an indie game fan, you know about Humble Bundles. They have expanded to comics. Marvel Unlimited is a subscription service. Kickstarter is a great place for indies. And right here at home, of course, you have your own comic book stores. We've got Zoo Comics and Outland, who I found out about as sponsors of the show, but you also have cons up here, and that's a fantastic way to find out about the Norwegian comic scene and meet other people who are interested in the same stuff. So check out either Bergen International Comics Festival or Oslo Comics Expo, and welcome to comics.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. Well, guys, those were our 4 presenters for today, and that wraps up Lightning Talks for 2015. We hope that we'll see you next year, and if you're interested in giving a talk, apply for next year. But for now, we're going to go back up to the studio for the Game Developers Conference.